It's my new computer does that.
Okay. Welcome, everyone. Today's real skills workshop is trauma relief. From scared and timid to calm and confident. I could say from the journey from scared and timid to calm and confident. And I want to say first, welcome. And also that, as I think about myself through my life, up until the time that someone said, oh, feels like, a lot of what's going on for you is trauma. And I was like, for what? Trauma? I was never in a car accident. um, it really pleases me that so many spaces are starting to come into an awareness of trauma. And while it hasn't necessarily extended to the workplace and others, trauma informed for understanding yourself and like, why did I do that? Why do I feel so intense about this? And also being able to see people in your family, in your community, in your workplace, in the world, and recognize recognize the dynamics that go on for us as humans. I'm Rick at Thriving Now Center if you want to discuss this and the real skills. And I'm here with Kathy Vartuli, um, who has been exploring trauma and the primitive brain with us and with me for quite some time. And
Yeah,
it's
like
a real,
14 years now or something like that we've been working
yeah,
together.
it's a real privilege to be here with you and with our community.
Yeah, and I just want to honor each of you that are here. I think a lot of times we forget to acknowledge how much we're doing. And this is a Sunday afternoon. I don't know about where you are, but here it's a beautiful, lovely afternoon and, sunshine, and we can be out a little bit more. And you're choosing to spend your time here with us, exploring some of the stuff that a lot of people avoid. And Rick and I are going to talk more about that a little bit. People like to avoid what's uncomfortable, like things that are timid. We're not very confident. We don't have we're going into them and we're like, oh, I'm not sure. We like to avoid those feelings. It's much more comfortable to sit on the couch and watch reruns of Chopped or whatever your favorite show is. That's my latest escape, is Chopped, watching people try to make weird recipes out of jalapeno lollipops or whatever. But the fact that you're here, being willing to go a little deeper, exploring how you can help give yourself support and help be there for others. I know it helps me so much as I go through the world. I work as an engineer as well, and I'm like, oh, this person is having some blocks around this. It lets me walk through the world much more effectively. My mom is moving homes and she's definitely in survival brain a lot of the time, and I can look, oh, this isn't really about me. She's not even seeing me right now. So the work you're doing right now is so important. And I used to think that if I just tapped enough and cleared enough, I was going to be like, oh, nothing bothers me anymore. And
Mm,
it doesn't happen that way. I've been going through life and I'm so much more resilient than I ever was. And a couple of years ago, some really big things happened to me. And I noticed I'm really timid in areas that I was never timid before. And so we go through life, and while we would like, I do think we can recover quicker, life sometimes does happen. And I think I got through those experiences much more solidly, partly because I had beautiful help and support from Rick and other people, but partly because I knew how to heal it. And I'm like, oh no, I already did this. I already dusted last week. Why am I having to dust again today? And we do have, Rick talks a lot about big T traumas and small T traumas. And our survival brain, anytime it thinks it's facing something more than it knows how to handle, it experiences that as trauma. It can't run away, it can't fight. It's just like, I don't know what to do. I'm going to die. And that it stores as trauma. And we all have experiences. Some of them stick and some don't. Rick and I were talking about this before the call. Like, some people have a car accident and they walk away fine. Another person can have a small car accident and they're afraid to get in a car again. We don't always know what's going to stick. Partly it's on our level of resiliency in a given day. Like, if I've had a zillion, like, my mother yelled at me, the dog ran away, air conditioning stopped working and then I had a small car accident, I'm much more likely to be overwhelmed than on a day where, yeah, things are kind of going well. It depends on our resiliency. It depends on what it reminds us of. And we're going to dive into that a little more, give you the skills and the concepts. So as life happens, you're able to go, oh, okay, how can I heal this? How can I feel more confident? How can I choose how I want to move forward? So I just want to honor you. If you're here, pat yourself on the back, give yourself like a attaboy, because we don't do that very often. And this really, you rock that you're here. I am so impressed that you're spending your time with us and choosing to make your life better.
Being able to recognize when we're having a trauma response, even if it's downstream, like, oh, this morning, that was a trauma response. And having a skill. Skill means that we can learn it, that we can have enough of a concept of it, like, oh, this isn't rote, but it is on many ways pretty straightforward. And we're going to try to make it that way. We're continuing to try to refine that. So a real skill, again, is something that you apply that really makes your life have an opportunity to thrive, to expand and express yourself. It's, and yes, so we're going to be learning and we're going to be trying to maintain a space that is regulating. Now, what that means is that we're together, all of us. And if you look at the gallery view for a moment, if that is okay for you, we have people from around the world that are joining in this journey. Every single one of us have enough interest in trauma and what it has meant to us and what it can do for us as we develop more of a skill around it to be here and be here together. And while it looks like a bunch of squares, I'd like us to take a moment and imagine that we're in a circle. And the reason I love the geometry of a circle is that it's not Kathy and I up on stage. That is not our energy about this. We want to facilitate and support our community in developing this. Your wisdom, your past experiences matter. That's why we have a community forum at thrivingnow.center. And so I want each of us to feel like your presence, your life experience, the wisdom that can flow through you and to you now and in the future matters. And as a circle, we expand and we can adjust. And so that kind of sets the energetic. And we're learning today. We're going to be learning in our bodies and in our minds. But some of the first and most impactful learning that we get is from our primitive brain. Trauma is a way that we learn. We learn what to fear. Trauma is a way that we learn what to fear and what our limits are. And if there's a real challenge with that way of learning, is that sometimes it carries on and sticks in a way that really impacts our freedom. And that's why having this skill can make such a difference. You want to
Yeah,
talk a
and
little bit about what we're going to be, about the skill and helping us ground and doing a little tapping too?
yeah, I just want to emphasize that trauma is not the only way we can learn, but it's
That's
kind
right.
of like the kid is running into the street, or the kid is sticking his finger in the electric socket kind of level of learning, where our system is like, no, you cannot do this. Really overwhelmed. We can learn in other ways. It doesn't have to be traumatic.
Good.
Um, and it's kind of the backup system. One of the problems is, as we exercise different muscles, we can exercise learning by cognitive function, by habit, by watching those around us where our mirror neurons pick things up. We can also practice learning by trauma. And if our mirror neurons can learn that from, my mother has a lot of trauma, I judge. I learned early on to learn by trauma because that's what I was seeing. So whatever muscles we're practicing, those are the ones that are going to get stronger. if our system, like the neural pathways, if we have lots of repeated trauma, or that's the only way we're being taught, then those become the neural pathways that become strong. And someone in the chat was talking about graduate school and learning, and learning can be really beautiful and fun and exciting and curious, or it can be very shaming and degrading, and you know, part of it depends on those around us, how they're treating us, how, like, you should know that, how did you not know that, you know, like the very critical
That.
stuff. Yes. Or, okay, of course you wouldn't know that, let me explain it to you. And we also internalize it, and we have our own internal dialogue too. Sometimes I can traumatize myself, quote unquote. I'm like, you should know that. How can you, like, you know, no one else is here, but I'm kind of sliding down those neural pathways. So you want to do a little tapping, Rick?
Yeah, so we use an energy technology, emotional technology called Eft Capping. It's been around for a few decades. There's lots of research around it. You can Google that. At thrivingnow.com/tapping, you can find the tapping points and the chart. We're not going to be teaching tapping, but it's simple enough that you could just watch what Kathy and I are doing, repeat after us. You're welcome to change the names. We use acupressure points, but we use them in a different way to stimulate. I call them natural comfort points. And the reason being is that when you're touching on something that is kind of stuck in your system as a unresolved trauma, by tuning into it, your body goes, what are we going to do with this? And we go, and
Yeah.
I accept myself and it's okay. And that was horrible. And we tap on these points. And yeah, so you want to start with that, Kathy,
Yeah.
around especially this, um, that feeling of being scared.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of shame often when we're scared. Our culture really rewards confident people. And when I feel overwhelmed or ashamed, I often shame myself for feeling overwhelmed and shamed. So I'd love to just start there if that's okay. So I invite you all, if it's good for your body, all of this is a choice. We're not ordering you to do anything. Please listen to what's right for you. But if it feels okay to you, take a nice gentle breath. So what we're doing is a very intentional biofeedback loop. If you take a slow, gentle breath, and I love making noise when I exhale that vibrates the vagus nerve, those are all things that you wouldn't do if a bear was chasing you. If a bear was about to swipe you with his claws, you wouldn't be going, So we're gonna weave in with our tapping different trauma coping responses. If you have a glass of water nearby. Also, if a bear is chasing you, you wouldn't stop and take a nice cool sip of water. You would be running, or a cup of warm tea. So we don't have control necessarily directly over our heartbeat. Most of us don't, or our blood pressure, or whether we sweat or not. Those are all trauma response. But we do have ability to control how fast we're breathing, how deeply we're breathing, whether we're sipping or eating something. A lot of people eat food when they're traumatized to try to calm themselves down. Again, bear chasing you, not going to stop to eat something. So those are just little ways you can signal to your body that you can calm a little bit. So I invite you to take another nice, slow, deep breath. Nice. And if you want to, look around the room and notice, let your survival brain look, because it's always scanning for danger. Please notice there's no lions, tigers, bears, assuming that that is the case. If there are like live, dangerous lions, tigers, or bears, please leave the room and call us back when you're in a safe space. So we're going to start karate chop. Even though I have a lot of shame around this,
Even though I have a lot of shame around this,
I should be more confident.
I should be more confident.
I should learn faster.
I should learn faster.
I should be able to do these things better
I should be able to do these things better
right away.
right away.
And I'm not.
And I don't always.
Maybe I'm okay anyway.
Just pause for a moment and let that sink in. And maybe I'm okay anyway. Huh.
Hmm. Even though they don't act like I'm okay.
Even though they don't or didn't act like I was okay.
And they kind of shamed me.
And they shamed me.
They haven't had my lived experiences.
They have not had my lived experiences.
And they don't know what I'm experiencing.
And they don't know what I'm experiencing in my body and mind right now.
I think sometimes they think they know exactly what's going on,
Sometimes they act like they know exactly what's going on.
but it's them that doesn't have a clue.
They don't have a clue.
Top of the head, they act like I should know more.
They act like I should know more.
Eyebrow, they act like I should have more confidence.
They act like I should have more confidence.
Side of the eye, and I should learn faster.
I should learn faster,
Under the eye, do better.
do better, be calm.
Under the nose, and I feel ashamed.
And I feel ashamed.
Chin, what if I sent love to the part of me that feels ashamed?
What if I sent love to the part of me that feels ashamed?
Collarbone, what if I let that part know it's doing a really good job?
What if I let that part of me know that it's doing a really good job, even if it doesn't believe it?
Under the arm, just because other people don't understand.
Just because other people do not understand, it's like to be
Probably.
me.
Top of the head, I am doing the best I can.
I am doing the best I can.
And that's pretty wonderful.
And that's pretty wonderful.
Take a nice deep breath. And if you have yeah buts coming up, I love the yeah buts, or other thoughts or memories coming up, this is a great time to jot them down. Also, something you can't do when a bear is chasing you. But those, we tend to avoid places that we feel uncomfortable. We talked about that a little bit earlier. While they're floating near the surface, if you can write them down, that will give you some leverage to identify them and do a little tapping on them later. And often these what are, yeah, but I can't have more confidence. Yeah, but he was really mad. Yeah, like some of the things, the yeah buts or the like I tapped, I said the words, but these reactions are coming up. These no, that's not for me coming up. Or some memories. That time I was 3 and I spilled grape juice all over the carpet. I was obviously a bad child. Like whatever that is, writing those down and doing a little bit of tapping can start opening doorways to healing, because a lot of times we're stuck in that freeze response. We're stuck in the shame and it's not moving. And if we do a little bit of tapping, it starts relaxing. And one of my favorite things that Rick teaches is if you're trying to go from LA to New York and you don't like where you're heading to, if you change your trajectory even a little bit, a few degrees, you can end up someplace very different. So if we can go from a 10 intensity to a 9.9, our system is learning to heal and it has room to start kind of moving and shifting that. So even if it doesn't feel like it's shifting a lot, even a little bit of change can make a huge difference.
And so I want to say that as part of the journey from scared and timid to calm and confident, what we're doing right now is what I did when I was learning tapping. I would listen and I would tap along with other people that are touching on things, some of them really different that I didn't have any relation to. But while I was tapping, I would notice something. Like like during that tapping, I got a flash of a reaction that I had this morning. And my reaction was much stronger um, to the situation than it really called for. Now that's a clue. If we look at some of the clues, Kathy and I did a separate video that's out there on the center about how can I tell if trauma is impacting me? And one of the ways is like, is my reaction outsized? You know, and One of the people in the chat said, I don't feel like I'm doing the best that I can. Useful. It could be that, like, saying I'm doing the best that I can is triggering for you. Like, honestly, that's triggering for me. I'm a reform, it's like being an alcoholic at a former alcoholic at a party where everyone's drinking and you're not. Perfectionists don't really, and people who really were like, I got to do the best I can. I got to do the best I can. Like that kind of driven trauma response. I need to do the best that I can be triggering. It's really useful. And so even though it doesn't fit our response to it, this is how we start making um, progress on it. I'd like
Can
to
I
do a
just,
tapping on.
I just wanted to add something about doing the best we can. So Jean, I think like Rick said, the perfectionist, we always put the pedal to the metal. We can do the best, we can do some amazing feat and we're still like, I could have improved that. And what really caught my attention, I always felt like I should work harder. And then 4 years ago, I almost died. I worked so hard that I was in ICU for 21 days. I almost died. And I was there trying to work more. When I would come out of the coma, I would like talk about work. I'm like, literally, I was doing so much, my body was dying and my brain was trying to drive me. And that I did a lot of work after that because I was like, wow, there's something dry. I think that some of us get caught up in that always having to do better. And I really do think we are doing the best we can in any given moment. So I just wanted to add that. That caught my attention of like, wow, I can drive myself to death and I'm still like literally to death and not feel that I was doing a good enough job. And I
That's
want
a
none of
trauma.
you to
That's a
have to.
trauma clue.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's another one of those trauma clues that a lot of us have and or have had. Um, yeah, I'd like to do a tapping on how we react. And like if you take a moment and if you're aware of like how trauma has impacted you, and particularly in a certain kind of situation, like you look at yourself and you're like, oh, I can't stand the way that I react in that situation. Like I really can't stand it. It's one of the things that this approach is we have to. It's useful. I found it useful with clients and myself to start with like how we really feel about ourselves in a situation. Like I really can't stand Rick when he gets that angry over someone putting up a fence. It's like, please. So like right now, my ears are turning red. I'm having a reaction. I'm thinking of myself this morning. One of our neighbors is putting up a fence. They're going to block off our kids from playing in the creek on their property. Now that's just, it sucks. Okay. There's no part of it that's great, but it's like a 2 or 3. It's not a 9, but I get it. I'm following my traumas back. But I really, before I try to calm myself about, oh, it's okay, it's not a big deal. I've got a trauma at work because it's a 9 reaction and I hate that. And maybe you run from it. Maybe you despise yourself. You really can't stand that you don't have your shit together. Um, Whatever it is, it's really useful to tap on that, I find. So 0 to 10, how do you feel about that reaction you're having? Like, what's the word that you would describe? Hate, contempt, distaste, like frustrated, whatever it is. And 0 to 10, how big is that feeling? Like mine's pretty big. And it's like disgust and an 8. Okay. Now this came up this morning fresh. Wasn't expecting this little trauma thing to come up. out for a walk with my family, right? And like I was just, this is the journey, because I could scared, when we're scared, sometimes we get angry. Sometimes we get, we can avoid, but we can also get like really ridiculously angry and start having revenge thoughts and things like that. Yeah. Even though I don't like my reaction,
Even though I don't like my reaction,
to say the least.
to say the least.
I am seeing myself.
I'm seeing myself.
I'm knowing myself a little better.
I'm knowing myself a little better.
And I'm learning that trauma is impacting me here.
And I'm learning that trauma is impacting me here.
That I don't like how I react there.
I don't like how I react here.
Eyebrow. I can't stand the way I react.
I can't stand the way I react.
Oh yeah. Who is this person reacting this way?
Who is this person reacting this way?
Yeah, they're so scared.
They're so scared.
I know, they're so angry.
They're so angry.
They're so timid.
They're so timid.
Hold on. They feel so helpless.
They feel so helpless.
In the arm. Who is this traumatized person reacting this way?
Who is this traumatized person reacting this way?
I don't like them.
I don't like them.
Eyebrow, and they're me.
And they're me.
So yeah, it's a traumatized version of me.
It's a traumatized version of me.
Yeah, a traumatized part of me.
Traumatized part of me.
Under the nose. And it's hard.
And it's hard.
And it's hard to be taken over by a reaction.
It's hard to be taken over by a reaction.
It's breathtakingly hard to be taken over by a reaction.
It's breathtakingly hard to be taken over by a reaction.
And I so want healing for myself.
I so want healing for myself.
And I am seeing myself a little differently now.
And I am seeing myself a little differently now.
And if you're not, you can do like, I'm open to seeing myself a little differently now.
Yeah, I'm open to
I'm
seeing.
open to seeing myself a little differently now.
I am open to seeing myself a little differently now.
Now check in with your body. Maybe allow yourself to shift in your chair. Again, like you don't tend to move if you're hiding from a bear or from an image of yourself. And consider again you having a reaction, that same reaction. If your mind bounces someplace else, go back to that one. Like, okay, how do I feel about myself there? Is it still as intense? Like for me, it was an 8 of disgust. And now it's like, yeah, buddy, we need to change this. This isn't helpful, isn't useful. And that, and now that I had that, if you have any inkling that you're on the same side now, a little bit closer, a little bit more compassionate, you can maybe tap your collarbones. And I'm in this together with those parts of me.
And I am in this together with those parts of me.
And Kathy and Rick are here.
Kathy and Rick are here.
And my community's here.
And
even the ones I don't know.
My community's here, even the ones I don't know.
And maybe this can shift for me.
And maybe this can shift for me.
I want more calm and confidence around this.
I want more calm and confidence around this.
Someone said, wow, I deserve so much more grace than I give myself. Yeah, that's a trauma response. Love you, been there, still in there sometimes, was there just a few minutes ago, looking at myself, having this reaction. And thank you, because by you sharing that in the chat here, I hope we can all feel like, oh, I'm being really harsh on that part of me. That's a trauma response. Okay. It's not that I'm actually, the reaction is so abnormal. And this is it. Like, there's a thing about trauma that keeps calling us and calling us and calling us and calling us. It keeps rising and rising and rising. And it does so because the intelligence is also there that this really isn't you. Your nature. Kathy and I tend to attract people that are really sweet with other people for the most part. Um, that want healthy boundaries, safety, respect, freedom for others, and the generosity. I get to feel your generosity every single day in email and other ways that you support the community. Thank you. Um, and we can be really disgusted with a reaction. And I believe that that is where our inner intelligence is saying, hey, this is impactful. This is actually impacting other aspects of your life too. But right now we're aware of this. Does this make sense, Kathy?
Absolutely. I'd like to add too that when we're feeling timid, overwhelmed, lack of confidence, we get reactions in our body, and we have stories in our heads, like thoughts in our heads, and often there's a cyclical thing. So when I was doing something very challenging last week, and I knew it wasn't my heart, but I had anxiety so bad. I'm like, I think I'm having a heart attack. So I'm having all these feelings in my body, which are feeding into the thought in my head, like, this is too hard. Who are you to do this? Just shut up and keep your mouth shut. Like, there was the verbiage in my head. There was the sensations in my body going on, and they were feeding into the shame, which was making my body feel worse, which was making the chatter. It was turning up the volume and the chatter in my head. And one thing that can really help is if you can separate those things, because they kind of catalyze each other. If I'm having like intense, I'm like, oh, okay. The actual feeling I have in my body is I have a lot of tension in my shoulder, kind of a buzzy feeling in my body, and my heart hurts. Like and it's tension. I'm not actually having a heart attack. Okay, that's what's actually feeling in my body. Then I
Would
wrote
you
down,
would you would you lead a tapping on that for this
sure.
this exercise that we're doing? And then we'll
Yeah,
get to the thoughts in the
yeah.
head, right?
Yeah,
Cool.
let's do that. Okay. So I invite you, just notice, think of a time you felt really timid or ashamed or overwhelmed, and just take a gentle breath. You don't have to step all the way into those feelings, but notice, see if you can remember what you were actually the sensations, not the thoughts you had, not the story about it, but the actual sensations. Some of you will go, I felt sad in my heart. We want to go even deeper than that. What is, like, did it feel heavy? Did it feel tense? Did it feel hot? Like actual, like something you could actually feel sensation wise, and write those down and see if you can notice how intense they were. So my heart was hurting at a 10 that day from the tension. And luckily I work at a company where they do where we work with ultrasound, and they just scan my heart and it looks great. So I knew I could put that aside. But just noticing what the sensations are, and let's just notice how intense they are, and we're going to just do a little more tapping. So deep breath, karate chop, even though I have all these sensations in my body.
Even though I have all these sensations in my body.
And that must be proof there's something wrong.
And isn't that proof that there's something wrong?
What if they're just sensations that I'm feeling?
What if they are just sensations that I'm feeling?
I don't complain when the sensations are good.
Don't complain when the sensations are good.
What if I could just feel these sensations
What if I could just feel these sensations
and let them go?
and let them go?
Top of the head, I can't let them go.
You kidding me? I can't let them go.
Eyebrow, there's proof that I did something wrong.
This must be proof I did something wrong.
Side of the eye, it must be proof that I am wrong.
It must be proof that I am wrong.
Under the eye, they're so intense.
They're so intense.
Under the nose, I decided they mean I'm wrong.
I decided they mean I'm wrong.
Chin, what if they don't actually mean that?
What if they don't actually mean that?
Collarbone, what if they're the warning signal on my dashboard?
What if they're the warning signal on my dashboard,
Under the arm, indicating that I'm under stress.
indicating that I'm under stress?
Top of the head, when my gas tank says the light goes yellow,
The gas tank says, then the light goes yellow.
I don't say the car is wrong.
I don't say the car is wrong.
Eyebrow, I go and get gas.
I'm going to get gas.
Side of the
It's
eye.
charged up.
Side of the eye, maybe these sensations mean I need to get some support.
Maybe the sensations mean I need some support.
Under the eye, just like the check engine light,
It's like the check engine light.
my system is saying, please get support.
Please get support.
Under the nose, please do some tapping.
Please do some tapping.
Chin, take a small break.
Take a small break.
Collarbones, stop
confidence.
beating yourself up.
Oh, I could stop beating myself up.
Under the eye, what if they're just a signal I need something a little different?
What if they are a signal I need something a little different?
Top of the head, and I don't need to hold on to them.
I don't need to hold on to them.
Nice deep breath. We often feel like the negative things will last forever. Humans cannot sustain emotions very long or feelings very long. I hadn't cried in a long time when I first started working with Rick, and I was afraid if I started, I would never stop. But I had a couple good hours purges, or people can't cry forever. I felt like I was going to in the moment. It's a story we tell ourselves. So if we're having a lot of intense feelings, if we can breathe and tap with them, if we can just feel them, or we can get a friend to talk to us, we can take breaks from it. It's okay to feel those feelings. They're not actually proof. It's when we take them as proof that we're damaged or broken or wrong in some way that we start feeding this loop that goes on.
Yeah, so I want to say that the loop that we're used to, there's a virtuous loop, a healing loop, a calm and confidencing loop, which says, okay, I'm definitely noticing something. I'm activated. If it's more than activated, I'm triggered. If it's more than triggered, well, I'm really like, ah. And it may not be when you're really intensely triggered in a trauma that you have a lot of capacity on your own to tap. If you do this work when it's something from earlier today or last week, and it's not a 9, 10, 11, 2000, 20 trillion, it's a trauma, it's impacting you, it's maybe related to something else that's from your past that you remember. When you build up a new pattern that your brain can choose, it's going to choose it more and more. Why? Because being triggered is really expensive. Being panicked is extremely expensive to your biology. It costs a lot. It can cost your vitality. It can cost your sense of yourself. It really is expensive. And the primitive brain wants you to survive. And if there's a more beneficial kind of reaction, like, oh, I'm triggered, I start to tap my collarbone. I had to train myself that anytime I started to feel a little anxious for about 100 days, 6 months, at least, for about somewhere around 6 months, I took anything that I started to feel anxious about. Oh, this is a 6. Oh, this is an 8. This is a 4. Oh, I'm noticing it now. It's a 2. And I did some tapping. And then what I started noticing is when the anxiety hit my reactive system instead of my response, I started tapping. There was enough of an ability to pause. So the healthy thriving cycle is, oop, I'm noticing something. I pause and I calm my system. Those grounding exercises that we talked about. And let's just do another breath and a sound. Oh, and you might even tap your heels on the ground, like da 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 da. You might rub your chest if you feel like you want to yawn. So good for the nervous system. And then you can feel gravity working, let it do a little bit more of the work. Just, oh, okay. When we say let it go, there's a physical quality of, gravity can take a lot. It can take a tension in your jaw, like, oh, oh, there's that a little, and that sends a signal, pause and calming. And I believe that this way of approaching trauma builds confidence. It has for me, because it says I can see like what's more clearly now as I'm tapping and I'm documenting. I'm not having to hide it. What? Oh, I'm really reactive around that. And I can be with that. Now that builds up confidence. Even amidst all the rest of the noise, you start building up a kind of confidence that says, I can be with that. That's, that's what trauma takes away from us. It takes away our sense that we can be with the things that happen in life. But I know many of you, and you've got tremendous capacity for courage. You've been through so much that, to be able to handle so many things, if you're in this virtuous cycle of pause, calm, confidence, and then take a step toward more relief, a step toward what matters to you, and then pause, calm, confidence, step, pause, calm, confidence, step. For those of us, I get impacted very quickly, regardless of, call me a highly sensitive person. I'm definitely a sensitive person. I know myself now. And so when something happens, um, it it is going to be more impactful for me. And to know that I have this as as a skill I can use back when I'm home, back when I have some safety to help deal with, clear, let go, recalibrate. Um, yeah, it's changed my capacity. I could not do this type of work with you all if I didn't have this skill,
Mhm.
you know. Um, So
Yeah.
we'll
And I
do
think,
please, I'd
oh,
like to hear what you want to say, uh,
some tapping on the thoughts that are coming through real quick
and
before I
then
go.
we'll take the break.
Yeah.
Great.
So what Rick said about how trauma impacts our ability, our confidence that we can take care of things. And one of the things, like, Rick's a sensitive person. I imagine if you're here, you're not someone who's like, oh, shrug everything off. We learned from the trauma very quickly. You didn't have to hit us over the head 10 times. Some of us got hit over the head 10 times, but you didn't have to hit us over the head 10 times for us to notice that that's a dangerous area to go. We were able to learn from the trauma pretty quickly. Like, oh, don't go there. That hurts. Don't do that. And the problem with trauma is we learned that we can't cope with something. Something's beyond us. When it may not actually be true, it just might be we were having a bad day. Like, I know there's some days I feel dumb as a stick. I'm like, you try to teach me something, or I'm trying to learn it, and it won't sink in. And the next day, if I've gotten some rest and some food, 2 minutes later, I've got it. But if I've convinced myself on that day where I was low resource that I can't learn it, it's much harder for me to learn it later. And I could, because I've convinced myself that I'm not good and I don't cope well with that, or I don't learn well. And one of the things that can happen is, as we start having more areas of our life, if we have traumas that aren't healed, say we're like, oh, I can't drive the car because of that accident. I don't learn well because that person yelled at me when I was learning something. Oh, and I can't repair things. I was trying to get the dishwasher repaired and I kept calling people and trying, and I could never get it. Like, oh, I'm not, our brain starts deciding we're not very effective overall. So we're not just timid in those little spots. We start going, oh, I don't know that I'm a very effective person in general. I don't know that I can actually do this. And we start getting more and more timid. It's a kind of a kindling effect where everything gets affected by the individual traumas. And I love that what we're doing here is we're actually reversing the process. We're reclaiming our power. And we talked about the sensations just a few minutes ago. The other side of it is the voice chatter. And there's outside people and
I'd like to
oh,
do, if you
yeah.
would, a tapping on that. Like, trauma makes me feel stupid. And feeling stupid
Yeah.
is traumatic. I traumatize myself for feeling stupid from the trauma that's making me stupid. And then
Yeah.
we'll take our 7-minute break,
Okay.
and then we'll
Dive
come back
deeper.
and we'll go into the mind chatter, so
Do you
that we
want to lead
can
the tapping or do you want me to?
uh I
Yeah.
feel.
All right. So take a nice gentle breath. Karate chop, even though sometimes I feel so stupid.
Even though sometimes I just feel so stupid,
And I'm convinced that I'm not very good at something.
and I'm convinced that I'm not very good at something.
And I've been traumatized because I feel like I'm not very good at it.
I've been traumatized because I feel I'm not very good at it.
And then I'm in my survival brain,
And then I'm really in my survival brain,
which is not very smart.
which isn't very smart.
And it's focused on surviving,
And it's focused on surviving,
not on learning.
not on learning or
No,
loving.
no wonder I didn't learn that very easily.
No wonder I didn't learn that very easily.
No wonder I didn't learn that well.
No wonder I didn't learn that well.
Top of the head. I'm traumatized about being stupid.
I'm traumatized about being stupid.
And I'm probably stupid because I'm traumatized.
And I'm probably stupid because I'm traumatized.
Eyebrow, no one learns well in primitive brain.
No one learns well in primitive brain.
Side of the eye, that part of our brain is not for learning intricate tasks.
Yeah, that part of our brain is not for learning intricate tasks.
Under the eye, it's for running from a lion.
And for running from a lion or a
Under the
dad.
nose, yeah, under the nose, it's really good at running from a lion.
Really good at running from a lion.
Chin, it sucks at learning calculus.
It sucks at learning guitar.
Collarbone, I kind of convinced myself I'm not good at learning these things.
Trying to convince myself I'm not good at learning these things.
Under the arm, which activates my trauma response every time I try to learn it.
Which activates my trauma response every time I try to learn it.
Top of the head, what if I'm really smart if I'm not traumatized?
What if I'm really smart if I'm not in trauma response reaction?
And I can learn how to do that. And I'm doing it
And
right
I
now.
can learn how to get out of that.
And I'm doing it right now.
And I'm doing it right.
Take a nice deep breath.
Ah,
Yeah. I really appreciate you all going there with us because it's not a comfortable topic. And if we don't look at it, we're kind of stuck with whatever we decided in the moment of trauma. So you're getting to rewrite your life and your experiences and your expectations of yourself, and you're creating all kinds of possibilities. I really
and
appreciate that.
and yeah, and to amplify, it is a clue. If you feel stupid, it's a clue that you're in trauma response. Now, it some people use their trauma to drive them forward for a particular kind of achievement, but it's very primitive brainy. You know, bless us all who have done that. And so as we take a break here for 7 minutes, we're going to invite you, one, take care of any biological needs that you have for water or a break, bio break,
Stretch.
stretch, and also jot down some things for you. Like if this is a clue, if this is resonating around the stupid, oh, where in my life might trauma be making me feel and accuse myself of being stupid because I'm aware I don't have all my resources online, you know, like pushing a car versus driving a car, you know, it's different, harder. Don't feel like you feel like there's something wrong here. Also, if there's a reaction like the one that we touched on earlier, check in again with yourself, see what your emotional reaction is. how strong it is. Maybe write that down too.
You're still in the container while we're on break. So sometimes that can let things come up. We're still in the safe container. We're just taking a break. So if you want to journal or record stuff while you're in this space, it's a really powerful time.
Okay. So, and if you're listening to the replay, feel like you're with us. Just you're a time and space traveler.
Yes,
Take a break too. We're going to pause the recording now and we'll be back.
great.
Welcome back. Ah,
There was some great discussions in the chat while we were asking, like we've talked about some of the signals that something's wrong. Rick was sharing about overreaction, a strong reaction. Um, and we've talked about a little bit about like thinking you're feeling overwhelmed, you're feeling like you're stupid. There's also a lot about numbing and running away, avoiding that can come up too. And those are more subtle. Like one of the reasons we talk about the ones you can really notice, like an overreaction and kind of like, wow, I didn't mean to blow up like that, or I didn't mean to be like, why was I so scared? They're more active sensations versus the numbing and avoiding. We're really good as humans at not noticing what we're avoiding or not noticing when we're numb. Like a lot of us have really strong muscles there. So it's kind of a freeze response and also a flee response. Like I am very scared of heights. I've tapped on it a zillion times. Apparently haven't found the core on that one, but I am very scared of heights. But I am very good at avoiding things without even realizing I'm avoiding them about anything that would make me go on heights. So like, and then I'm like, oh yeah, I probably should do some more tapping on that. Um, so it's just something like if you have friends that can help you point that out, that's a good thing. Like Rick will sometimes point out to things like, you've said you were going to do that like 10 times and you didn't do that. Is there something going on? Like, I didn't even record in my brain that I was really avoiding that. So that's where it's really nice to have a community to kind of go, huh, you said that you really wanted to do that. Like you want to learn to play the guitar. You have a guitar, you have the lesson plan. How come you haven't done that? I'm using one that Rick also often brought up for me.
right. And if we're trauma informed, then we're not looking at the person as if they have this lack of willpower
Yeah.
and are
Why did you bad
undisciplined.
person?
You know, gosh, how could we even be friends? Um, it's more, oh, I'm curious whether you're noticing that there's something going on as you think about it. What comes up for you? Um, in the chat, there was a very specific example given. And for those of us that have a specific momentous trauma experience, like, um, and I'm not feeling drawn to read the specific examples, but if you have something that you keep flashing to, and you know it is very impactful, and especially if it occurred during childhood or in developmental times, maybe when you first went in the workforce or first was in a love relationship, sometime where you're really vulnerable. Um, there are approaches with tapping for very specific events. Like there's one called Tell the Story, and it's one thing that practitioners use, like myself. Um, but you can start with this yourself. Like I encourage people, if they have tapped on it and they've done some work on a specific trauma and they feel like they can do this, write it out in detail as much as you can remember. Write a sentence, start from before it was a trauma, like, oh, I was doing this and I was having a good time helping my friends. And what are you feeling? Oh, I'm feeling open and light. And you put that in there. So write a sentence and then in parentheses, what are you feeling? Oh, I'm feeling open and light. Like this is something I really enjoy doing. And then what's next? And then the teacher, okay? And if you freeze there or something comes up for you in the middle of the sentence, right? I feel like I shouldn't move. I feel like terror, horror, and put the number 0 to 10. You can tap while you do this. What if it is helpful to you? Like tap the points just through while you're writing it out. Make it at least a page. because a lot of times, especially for people that have been through therapy on a specific event, now a specific event is one where there's a movie, like you could be the narrator and that's what you're doing. And now that you're armed, like armed, as in like, yes, this is the experience. You can read a sentence out loud and tap and read the sentence 6 times. I was just helping my friends. I was just helping my friends. I felt so this and pause. I have found with clients that like by treating it with the deep respect for the impact that it has had, writing it out this way, and then do this, set it aside, and come back to it the next day and the next and the next. Take a break if you need to, but give it the attention and the comfort that it deserved. You can imagine, like if if you had loving people, safe people, like probably you are today, we often become the person that we really needed to be. Um, and we can bring that back in time. It's like, oh, sweetheart, you weren't doing anything wrong, buddy. Hey. And by giving yourself that attention, you're now showing yourself that you've developing a skill to handle even something that was impactful from the past. Then taking a look at the 2 or 3 other events that remind you of that one and doing the same thing. So now you've got, 4, and maybe there weren't others, but chances are if it impacted you back then, it impacted you in other situations. That is the really quick description of how this works. And um, out on the thrivingnow.center, you can ask for specific support. I've had people share their writing with me or how they feel about it afterwards. So please know that support at thrivingnow.com comes to both Kathy and I if you want to share something. We are in service and a part of this community, if that's helpful.
One of the things I want to add is that trauma often happens when we feel isolated. There may be people around us judging us or criticizing us, but we feel alone and unsupported. It's very hard to dissolve it if we feel alone and unsupported. So I put in the chat again, the center, which is free, you can join, and you can join and share. It's a place to feel connected. If you'd like a little more support, Rick has the circle, which is so powerful, thrivingnow.com/circle. I was very active for a very long time and it made a huge difference. And then we also have Reprogram Your Primitive Brain. So it's a program that Rick and I put together. It's at thrivingnow.com/brain if you want to take a look. It's a very intensive program. We went very deep. And it's one of our most favorite programs because it really walks you through the ways and exercises to really, primitive brain, primitive brain.
So that thrivingnow.com/brain has a presentation about
The free
trauma and the
resources.
primitive brain.
Yeah.
And then Reprogram Your Primitive Brain is at thrivingnow.com/primitive-brain.
So
And
depending on how much support and help you want with that, I just encourage you, whatever you do, whether you work with us or someone else, please don't try to solve this by yourself. It will often feel really overwhelming and it can reinforce the fact that I'm broken or I can't fix this or I'm not competent. Realize that a lot of trauma occurred when we were in isolation and it's much easier to solve when our survival brain knows we have support. So I just really want to encourage that for everyone. I'd love to talk a little bit about the mind chatter that goes on. So
yes.
when we're faced with, we're experiencing this feeling of I'm not competent, I'm timid, I'm held back. We have the sensations in our body. And there's also the mind chatter going on. So what happens is our survival brain, our subconscious, however you want to call it, it kind of absorbs the information around us. We have mirror neurons. They're parts of our brain that lets us learn from observing people around us. That means we can also be traumatized by things that happen to other people, not just us. So if we have a parent or a sibling or someone who's very like goes through a lot of trauma, we can actually learn to be traumatized from them, where the mirror neurons pick it up. What happens is we absorb those words, and it's a very effective survival mechanism. If you learn that if you leave muddy footprints through the house, your dad's going to backhand you. Like, and that's something that we've worked with people about. Like, okay, that's something that can happen to people. Then there's part of our brain that will absorb that information. And if we try to walk in the house before dad can see us, before we can leave that muddy footprint, we'll hear some of the words either he said or that mean that to us. What the hell are you doing? Get your dirty feet out of there. You're always tracking dirty stuff. So we hear that in our head. And that can create the sensations in our body. It can trigger us again. It can make us feel very timid. The one thing I think is most important to remember about this is so critical. So I really want you to remember this. That part of us that's yelling at us is not bad. It is misguided. It is trying to protect you. It means so well. And yelling at it or trying to eradicate it will just make it worse. Just imagine our survival brain, they say, has the intelligence of a small dog. If you have a small dog that's scared or angry and you yell at it, bad dog, stop that. Does that make the dog calmer? No, it makes the dog more reactive. If you tell it it's okay, I often thank those parts is my favorite thing. That part has been working so hard for so long
Would
to
you
help
do a
you.
tapping for us?
Yeah. So let's do that because that can dissolve some of the stress in there. Okay, so just take a nice deep breath. Karate chop.
And it's okay to be begrudgingly thankful because
Yeah,
that part of us can often feel like it's caused an awful lot of problems.
karate chop. Even though there's part of me that always chatters at me.
Even though there's a part of me that always criticizes, chatters.
Sometimes there's several parts
Sometimes there's several parts
telling me I'm not doing a good job,
telling me I'm not doing a good job,
putting me down,
putting me down,
nagging at me.
nagging at me.
What if those parts never meant any harm?
What if those parts never meant any harm?
What if they're really trying to protect me
What if they're really trying to protect me
in the best way they know how?
in the best way they know how?
It may really suck,
Really sucks.
and they're doing the best they know how.
And they're doing what they know how.
Top of the head. Hey, angry parts.
Hey, angry, scared parts.
Eyebrow, I know sometimes you're really fearful.
I know sometimes you're really fearful.
Side of the eye, and sometimes you're really angry.
And sometimes you're really angry.
Under the eye, and I don't always like how you talk to me.
And I don't always like how you talk to me
Under the nose, or what you say.
or what you say or imply.
Chin, yeah, chin. But I'm
Oh,
really grateful that you care so much.
I am really grateful that you care so much
Collarbone, and you try really hard.
and you try really hard.
Under the arm, you never shut up.
Never shut up.
Top of the head, that must mean you care a lot.
Must mean you care so much.
Eyebrow, I'm not always sure how to deal with you.
I am not always sure how to deal with that part of me.
Side of the eye, but I don't have to fight you quite so much.
What if I don't have to fight you quite so much?
Under the eye, what if I can appreciate you?
What if I can accept you?
Under the nose, maybe we can even tap together.
Maybe we can even tap together.
Chin, and if we release the trauma that created you.
And if we release the trauma that created you, internalized you,
Collarbone, what if we
taught
could
you,
give Collarbone, what if
taught
we
you,
could give you a new job?
what if we could give you a new job, a new mantra,
Under the arm where you could encourage me.
where you could even encourage me,
Top of the head, support me and love me.
support me, and love me in a different way?
I would really like that.
I would really like it.
Take a nice deep breath. If you're yawning, that's great. If you notice any kind of, I've had people release energy by yawning, burping. I had one person that farted a lot, one person hiccuped. It's okay. Your body's just releasing energy. We're all humans here.
And thank you. I think that the more that we're aware that there's a part of us that says, in this circumstance, I've learned this. I've learned that if I yell at you in advance, you're less likely to get injured. You're less likely to poke the bear. And so I am going to do that for you. That part of us, when we talk about acceptance and tapping, to me, acceptance is like this acknowledgement. Okay, I am starting to understand the intelligence here. I've hated it. I I haven't had a skill or support to know what's going on. I could tell that it was wrong and it hurt, but there's actually an intelligence, a primal intelligence behind it that actually wants me to survive. Thank you. I want to survive too. Every part of me wants to survive. Yay, we're all on the same team. One of the things about trauma, especially trauma that comes from people that are supposed to love and care for us, is that it feels all of a sudden like there's an adversary right in the nest. And that goes for people working together as a team to accomplish something that's important, our work. It goes for a love nest, where people are raising children. And as soon as our primitive brain goes, we're not together, we're adversaries. Well, now a very different program, a program that made it possible for my great, 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 great grandmother to survive the adversarial relationship within the bubble, and we activate a program. These real skills about being more calm and confident, like calming our nervous system, calming our chatter, becoming more confident. Like, to me, there's a part of me that wants me to survive so much that it will actually whip me in advance so that I don't get struck again. Wow, that's love. And it even sounds like my dad. Wow, that's real imitation. But like Kathy said, when you strip away, like, I'm not there, my dad's dead, you know? And when I've given that part of me, like, thank you, you helped me survive being a child. But what does it mean to be a dad now? Because that's where trauma can start, like, interfering. We can be afraid of being in a role that's really matters to us. And so a lot of the tapping that I did early on was, I had new kids. I was homeschooling, and I would notice that I would react a certain way. And so, like, if you're noticing in your life that you're reacting in ways that are interfering with you being who you want to be, looking at these roles and relationships is so useful. It is so helpful. And it's vulnerable. It's vulnerable too. So thank you for being here with that. Kathy,
I
we have
put,
about 10 minutes left. Do you have a sense of where we go from here? I don't
well,
think we're going to ask for volunteers right now. There's space in the circle. It's a very affordable gliding scale. There's even a 2-month gift membership if that's where you are right now. It's available as well.
yeah. So I put in the link. Also, there's thrivingnow.com/inner tapping. If you like that part of reclaiming the parts that are yelling at you, that's our version of that. And it's been very effective. It's a free webinar if you want to take a look at that. One of the things we're talking about real skills going from timid to confident. And we've talked a lot about the timidity. One of the things I'd like to touch on, like getting there, it's like tapping, clearing stuff, baby steps, getting support. Rick talked about those earlier. As we start feeling more confident, that can feel very uncomfortable too. A lot of us don't have muscles for being confident. And I'd like to just speak to some of us are from marginalized communities, people that have had an expectation that we won't be as confident in the world. And it certainly applies to everyone in the world, but I think there's a certain social conditioning for people that are people of color or different abilities, women in engineering or whatever. Like there's a certain expectation that we'll be a little more timid. And then certainly every human being feels this sometimes, this like, how do I be confident? How do I walk through the world without running other people over, still giving room for other people? And it's weird because like if we've always been a very timid person and we're interacting with our family, for instance, or friends, they may see us kind of standing up for ourselves as being more aggressive. Like they're used to taking up that space that we haven't been taking up. And they're like, there's an awkwardness about it. We can easily take that, our survival brain can take that as, oh, I'm not supposed to grow. Because we may have that, if we're feeling timid in many areas, we may not have been taking up a lot of space. We may not have been taking up our own space or owning our boundaries because we didn't feel like we had the right to, or we weren't going to make the right decision about it. So as we start being a little more confident, it can be awkward and we just don't have, it feels different. Our survival brain doesn't like different. Different means scary. Maybe I won't be good at this. So I'd just like to invite you to realize, and we'll do a little tapping on that if that's okay, Rick, to kind of just like, oh, this is new. It's okay that it's uncomfortable. Is that okay? All right, so I invite you to take a nice deep breath. Karate chop, even though they don't really expect me to be different.
Even though they really don't expect me to be different.
And I'm not really sure how to be different here.
And I'm not really sure how to be different here.
I am actually healing myself.
I'm actually healing myself right now.
And I'm getting more confident.
And I am getting more confident.
I want to play more.
I want to play. I want to play more.
I want to speak up more.
I want to speak up more.
I want to share my ideas.
I want to share my ideas and see them come to fruition.
I want to try things I didn't try before.
I want to try things I didn't try before.
And all of this can be a little awkward.
And all of this can be a little awkward, to say the least.
For me and for everyone else.
For me and for everyone else.
Top of the head, what if I give myself permission to be awkward?
What if I give myself permission to be awkward?
Eyebrow, I was awkward when I learned to tie my shoe.
I was awkward when I learned to tie my shoe.
Side of the eye, and somehow I'm pretty good at that now.
And somehow I'm pretty good at that now.
Under the eye, I was probably awkward when I learned to drive a car.
I was probably awkward when I learned to drive a car.
Under the nose, and other people were uncomfortable too.
And other people were uncomfortable too.
Chin, and we all somehow survived.
We all somehow survived.
Collarbone, I'm going to test drive this confidence thing.
I'm going to start being more confident.
Under the arm, and I get that I may be uncomfortable.
And I may be uncomfortable.
Top of the head, other people may be uncomfortable.
Other people may be uncomfortable.
Eyebrow, they may even criticize me.
They may even criticize me.
Side of the eye, because they're used to taking up the space I wasn't.
They are so used to taking up the space that I wasn't.
Under the eye, and I'm choosing to take up my own space now.
And I'm choosing to take up my own space now.
Under the nose, with compassion for myself and others.
With compassion for myself and for others.
Chin, I'm going to practice this a little bit at a time.
I'm going to practice this a little at a time.
Collarbone, and I'll probably screw it up once in a while.
Knowing me, I'll probably screw it up every once in a while.
Under the arm, but then I'm going to get really good at it.
And I want to be really good at this.
Top of the head, so I can step into my own life.
So I can step into my own thriving life.
And my confidence.
And my confidence.
Nice deep breath.
Thank you. I mentioned that I spent about 6 months tapping. Um, Probably like I'd notice it 5 or 6 times a day. And I just do a round or two, go to the bathroom, take a break, something. And there was a line, like the people that knew me prior to that 6 months, the people that were friends and the like, they thought, of me as a certain way. Um, and the people that I met after that, it was fascinating to have the first person say, "Wow, Rick, you're just really calm and confident, uh, no matter what seems to come up." I remember that person. I remember the moment that that happened. And it wasn't because I was as calm and confident as I am today. That was 20 years ago. What it is that I had I had started to give myself a sense that the anxiety that was coming up from all the trauma that I had gone through, all the unsafety that I had gone through, um, was quieting, and that inner voice was starting to say, "Yep, even though I could be freaked out here, just like my mother would be, I've decided to be a bit more calm and confident anyway." And sometimes the sigh is like, doesn't sound like, oh, it's like, you still make it. And I think that that's still true. While I have aspirations to be able to continue to develop this and share it and teach my kids and teach and share it with others and learn from you all, um, I know what a difference it's made in my life. Um, People that know me now know that I'm not my mother's worried son. And
Yeah.
bless my mother, she's 80. I'm so glad she's still around. Not everyone is blessed that way. And if I want to hear worry, I know who to call. And I do, like the worry channel. And I'm so grateful that the inherited trauma from her way of viewing life, which you touched on, Kathy, like we inherit the way that we deal with things, and we can inherit that. Oh, when this comes up, you get trauma, you treat it as if it's terrifying. Oh, you be timid here, or you be angry here, or we see anger and we become timid. That polarity thing, it's all primitive brain. um, and so as we bring this to a close, I wanted, and Kathy, I want to hear your closing thoughts too. I really want to invite this to be a sharing of wisdom. Kathy and I have devoted a lot of time and attention. I hope it shows, but it's not from a place of we're the experts. We are so curious because it matters so much. We notice what it's done for us. We want to be working for places and working with people and loving people who are trauma informed, that they can say, "Oh, I'm noticing that I'm really reacting to what you just said. It feels like really amped up by some trauma from my past. I'm going to take a moment and just calm myself." Such a difference when I do that with someone else. It's like, "Oh, what you just said, it's okay, but it's really set me off inside, and I'm going to go take care of myself, and I'll be back in about probably 5 or 10 minutes." I've done that like 5 times in the last few years. And when you do that and you can tend to yourself, or it's like, "Oh, I could really like get some reassurance here or support, like Kathy mentioned," you're in it together. You're no, you're we're breaking the adversarial thing that fight, flight, and freeze is all about. It's all about adversary. You start getting the parts of you working together. You start connecting with the parts of other people that are on your side too, that want to work with you. And you recognize that, oh, there's also this adversarial thing going on that sometimes props up and goes, wah, 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 wah. Fascinating. Oh, you're going, wah, wah, wah. Yeah, it's fascinating.
Yeah.
So,
And one thing I want to add, like you're able to step out of it much quicker. They've done a lot of studies on chickens and rats where the ones that had the trauma and recovered, learned how to recover, are much more resilient than those that never experienced the trauma. So the work you're doing is building up a strength, an inherent resilience that people that have never had to struggle with will never have. They'd have to go through a similar experience to get there. So while it may seem very like there's part of me that's like, whoa, it's not fair. I have to do all this work. You're also teaching your system how to survive, how to heal, how to bounce back. And that's a beautiful gift to give yourself. You will have ability to face things and kind of go, oh, okay, yeah, this happened. It sucks. And I'm going to get over it. I've done it before. I know how to do this again. So the gift you're giving yourself, not only just for yourself, but role modeling it outward, that's really precious. And I value who you are and how you walk through the world. And I really appreciate you spending the time with us, digging deep into your courage and building your confidence. And we hope that everything we shared serves you well.
To complete the circle, I, we invite your wisdom. The thrivingnow.center is a place that is working for those of us that are communicating there as an opportunity for us to have connection where we can thoughtfully express something that's dear to us. And while Kathy and I have taken the airtime and the facilitator roles here, that doesn't mean that there isn't space for you to share your questions, your ahas, your personal life experiences, and how you other things that you've done to help heal and strengthen your calm and confidence despite the traumas that you've experienced. So in the link that I'll send out, or if you're watching the replay on that website, you can reply right in that thread. It's a welcoming place for feedback around this. So thank you all. Thank you, Kathy.
What a pleasure.
All right. Bye for now.